It's 5:05 and welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I'm Nick Craig. Good morning to you. Well, on this Thanksgiving Eve, we look at travel. Nobody better to look at that than AAA. They have been tracking this now for decades, and they project that 81.8 million people will travel at least 50 miles or more from their home base over the Thanksgiving holiday period, which officially started yesterday and runs through Monday, December the 1st. This year's domestic travel forecast includes an additional 1.6 million travelers compared to last Thanksgiving, setting a new overall record, as Thanksgiving is the single busiest holiday for travel compared to others like Memorial Day and July the 4th. According to Stacy Barber, who is the vice president of AAA Travel, she says Thanksgiving travel numbers are always impressive because this holiday has become synonymous with heading out of town and spending time with loved ones. People are willing to brave the crowds and make last-minute adjustments to their plans to make lifelong memories, whether it's visiting extended family or meeting up with friends. AAA does project that at least 73 million people will travel by car. That is obviously the largest of the 81 million that are traveling over this holiday next couple of days. That's nearly 90% of Thanksgiving travelers, and an additional 1.3 million people will be on the road compared to last Thanksgiving. The AAA does note that number could end up being higher if some air travelers decide to drive instead of flying following recent flight cancellations. For those travelers renting cars, AAA's rental partner Hertz says that today, Wednesday, is expected to be the biggest pickup day and the busiest of that. The top 5 markets for demand include Orlando, Atlanta, Georgia, Las Vegas, Nevada, Los Angeles, California, and Newark, New Jersey. That's according to AAA booking data. Domestic car rentals are 15% cheaper this Thanksgiving compared to last year, so some pretty substantial savings there. However, at the pump, drivers are paying almost the exact same price as they did last year for Thanksgiving travel, with the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline was $3.06 on Thanksgiving Day last year. And looking at the current AAA gas price tracker across the country, well, that is exactly the price that we are at right now. The current average, the $3.06. However, it is expected to be down to potentially $3.04 tomorrow. However, we are well below the average here in North Carolina, just $2.81 for an average gallon of gasoline, and in South Carolina, $2.71 for an average gallon of gas as well. AAA recommends checking your battery and tire pressure, as last Thanksgiving holiday, the AAA responded to over 600,000 emergency roadside assistance calls to help stranded drivers with issues like dead batteries, flat tires, and empty fuel tanks. As drivers prepare to get behind the wheel, AAA and MAD, that's Mothers Against Drunk Driving, remind travelers about the dangers of impaired driving, noting that this time of year can be particularly deadly on the roads. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, from 2019 to 2023, the death toll in drunk driving crashes during holiday festivities were 868, representing more than 1/3 of all fatalities and traffic crashes during the holiday period. They note have a plan in place before Thanksgiving. Use rideshare, especially if you're going out tonight ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Designate a sober driver or take public transit if that is an option. So that is traveling by car, auto. That's going to be about 90% of travelers. By air, according to AAA, 6 million U.S. travelers are expected to take domestic flights over the Thanksgiving holiday period. That is a minor 2% increase compared to what those numbers were in 2024. That figure could end up being slightly lower as some air travelers make other plans following recent flight cancellations, as the number of Thanksgiving air travelers over the past several years, with the exception of 2020, has been between 5 and 6 million. According to AAA data, which is based on what travelers paid when they booked their Thanksgiving trips, a round-trip domestic flight is averaging pretty hefty $700, which is pretty similar to what it was last year. They do note that it is much significantly cheaper to fly on Thanksgiving Day itself, but obviously many folks not wanting to travel on Thursday, trying to get that travel done before to get to their destination before Thanksgiving Day. However, they note that it's flight homes that are driving up ticket prices, since Sunday and Monday are typically the busiest return days for in case of this Thanksgiving, and in general, Sunday and Monday flights typically tend to be more expensive. Some travelers shorten or extend their Thanksgiving trips to avoid flying on some of those peak days. Now, there are about 3% of individuals that will travel via other modes of transportation for the Thanksgiving holiday. That is expected to increase by nearly 8.5% to nearly 2.5 million people. Those travelers are taking trips by bus, train, and cruise. Buses and trains could see an uptick in last-minute bookings this year. Cruising is building on its record post-pandemic growth, and it is noted that this year alone, AAA is projecting 20.7 million American cruise passengers. That number is even higher for the 2026, is expected to be even higher for 2026, when AAA is already forecasting close to 22 million U.S. travelers taking ocean cruises throughout the year. Cruise vacations are appealing during Thanksgiving, especially to the Caribbean, because the weather tends to be pretty mild. The trip is paid in advance, and families can bring grandparents and kids, and everybody is entertained. The top holiday destinations are a rather interesting list as it relates to some of the travel and traffic. Now, it is important to note, and AAA points out, that some of these locations have to do with where there are popular theme parks and cruise ports. The top three, I should say, domestic are Florida, that's Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, followed by Anaheim and Los Angeles, California, another Florida in Tampa, New York, San Francisco, California, Honolulu, Hawaii, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Atlanta, Georgia. Those are some of the top domestic areas that AAA is expecting travel over the next couple of days. A couple of interesting international locations as well, as some folks turn this period of time into a lengthy international holiday. Paris, France, Amsterdam, that's in the Netherlands, Vienna, Austria, Cancun, Mexico, Punta Cana, that's in the DR, and then a couple of other countries and locations for individuals making their way and completing some international travel. Now, AAA also notes some of the best and worst times to travel over the next couple of days for your Wednesday. That's November the 26th today. They say the worst travel time is pretty much all day, between 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. So if you can get out now, just as we approach 5:14 here, maybe that's a good time for travel. 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., not great. They say the best travel time is before 11. They note that minimal traffic impacts. Most folks will be making their travel today. Pretty minimal impacts tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. They note that the early afternoon to late evening hours are some of the more heavily traveled times over the next couple of days. AAA always does a great job diving into this information. The AAA itself was founded back in 1902 by automotive enthusiasts advocating for better roads and safety mobility, and they have grown into one of North America's largest and most trusted membership organizations. They do this for most major holidays. We'll be looking at probably pretty similar numbers here over the next couple of weeks as we approach Christmas and the Christmas holiday season. We'll bring you those details as soon as we get them from AAA, and we'll keep you up to date with that right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour. It's now 5:15, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. We'll head on over to the traffic center on your early Wednesday morning commute, maybe getting out before the rush hour with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Good morning.
It's 5:20. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump continued a beloved Thanksgiving tradition on Tuesday as they hosted the 78th annual National Thanksgiving Turkey Pardoning Ceremony, as that always takes place at the White House. Now, this is, of course, something that you've probably seen pictures of every year. However, there is something pretty unique this year, as both turkeys are from the state of North Carolina. Pretty cool situation there. The two turkeys, officially named Gobble and Waddle, were raised in North Carolina under guidance from the National Turkey Federation chairman, Jay Jardine, and Butterball contract grower Travis Pittman. That is the farmer and the individual responsible for that. Upon their arrival in Washington earlier this week, the turkeys enjoyed a luxurious stay at the Willard Intercontinental Hotel, which is located adjacent to the White House grounds. After the ceremony, the turkeys will return to North Carolina State University, or NC State, in Raleigh, where they will live under the care of the Department of Poultry Science. There, they will receive dedicated housing, daily care, and veterinary services while helping to educate the public about animal agriculture and the importance of America's turkey industry. And, of course, important to know, we mention it here all the time, North Carolina remains our number one business in the state, does remain to be agriculture, and, turkeys and turkey farming is a large part of that. This year, the turkeys faced an online vote to name them, with naming options from North Carolina 4-H and FFA students. And to see who officially got the presidential pardon, the White House released stats on both birds, both of them weighing in at over 50 pounds, and again, both of them originating here from North Carolina. So that official turkey pardoning took place yesterday, as the president took place in that, saying that President Trump noted that former President Joe Biden's 2024 pardons were invalid for the turkey that he gave. So he went forth and gave those additional turkeys pardons, saying, "Sleepy Joe, he used an auto pen last year for the turkey pardon. I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid as parts of about every other person that was pardoned, other than Where's Hunter?" That was a good one, right? The rest are invalid. North Carolina's former governor, Roy Cooper, attended Biden's 2024 pardoning as a special guest of President Biden and Jill Biden at the time, with Trump adding, "Peaches and Blossom," those were the turkeys last year, "have been located and they were on their way to be processed, in other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey. I am officially pardoning them, and they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. We just saved them just in the nick of time." This year, Trump and First Lady Melania Trump welcomed North Carolinians and North Carolina's Travis Pittman from the state of North Carolina, with the two birds that he was responsible for raising, Gobble and Waddle, and delivered the official 2025 pardon. Gobble was on display in the White House Rose Garden ceremony after winning an online public poll to officially get that presidential pardon. And as I just noted, both turkeys will return to North Carolina and live out the rest of their days at NC State. The president called them Maha turkeys, Make America Healthy Again, saying, "These are two of the largest turkeys ever presented to an American president, over 50 pounds. It's the largest that we've ever had. I've never seen a turkey that big before, and are they violent at all? Because if they are, I'll stay right up here." President Trump also joked that he is considering renaming the turkeys Chuck and Nancy after the Democratic leaders of the United States House and Senate. That would be Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. However, he insisted that he wouldn't be able to pardon them. On a more serious note, Trump used the holiday spotlight moment to celebrate the first year of his administration and lower grocery prices for this Thanksgiving. We'll get into some of those prices coming up here in a little bit. The president said the price of a Thanksgiving turkey is down 33% from a Biden-era high. For those that skip the turkey and go with ham, that is down 15% compared to last Thanksgiving. So we are down to a level that we haven't seen in a long time. Egg prices are down 86% since March, and gasoline will soon be hovering around $2 a gallon. Under our leadership, we passed the largest tax cuts in history, the largest spending cuts in history, and the largest regulatory cuts in history. We have fully secured our southern border, and I've also ended 8 wars in 9 months. As we just talked about, contrary to some of the president's comments about $2 a gallon gas, the national average is still just a couple of cents over $3. As we will see, we will see the demand spike just a little bit as we head into the beginning of December and early January ahead of the big summer rush. The president concluded by saying, "This is a very special Thanksgiving. We thank God for his many blessings and the great success that this country has seen in a short period of time. We draw strength from the love of family and friends, and we express our underlying gratitude for the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. We love them. We pray that peace and prosperity will continue to bless our land, and together we'll just keep this great drive going to make America great again." The president is scheduled to join some of the stationed troops across the country, across the world, I should say, over the next couple of days as he will be talking with them via video link from Palm Beach, Florida, to wish them a happy Thanksgiving. That will be coming directly from the mouth of the commander-in-chief. And as I mentioned, we will talk a little bit about some of the prices for this Thanksgiving holiday, as this has been a major issue over the last couple of years. Rising prices have caused many of these holidays, whether we're talking about Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, to be a major budgetary issue for middle-class American families, with the price of eggs and other products up in some cases 90+% in the span of just a couple of years period of time. We'll get into some of those details coming up here in just a few minutes. It's now 5:27 on the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. We'll head back to the traffic center on your Wednesday morning commute. Get a look at the roadways with Boomer Von Cannon.
Thank you, Nick. Have an overnight.
It's 5:35. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. I'm Nick Craig. A happy Thanksgiving Eve morning to you. Taking a look at prices for this Thanksgiving. If you are somebody hosting dinner over the next couple of days, cooking a Thanksgiving dinner for your family and friends is set to cost less than last year, as it marks the third straight year of price declines as the American Farm Bureau Federation's 40th annual Thanksgiving dinner survey provides a snapshot of the average cost of Thanksgiving staples that make up the classic holiday feast for 10 individuals. That is slated to be at $55.18, or about $5.52 per person, according to their national survey. That's about a 5% decrease from 2024, as 3 years of declines don't fully erase some of the dramatic increases that led to a record high Thanksgiving cost of $64.05 in 2022. Once again, that was for those individuals feeding 10 individuals. The centerpiece on most Thanksgiving tables tomorrow will be the turkey, and they have seen a dramatic decrease in price, which helped bring down the overall cost of dinner. The average price for a 16-pound frozen turkey is $21.50. That's $1.34 per pound, and it's down more than 16% from last year. While the wholesale price for fresh turkey is up from 2024, grocery stores are featuring Thanksgiving deals and attempting to draw customer demand back to turkey, leading to lower retail prices for the holiday bird. Farm Bureau volunteer shoppers checked prices the first week of November, as grocery stores often feature whole turkeys at even lower prices in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. According to the most recent USDA Agricultural Marketing Service data, the average per-pound feature price for a whole frozen turkey declined further during the second week of November, with some individuals reporting frozen turkeys as cheap as 30 cents per pound with some major grocers. The American Farm Bureau Federation economist Faith Prum said, quote, "It's encouraging to see some relief in the price of turkeys, and it is typically the most expensive part of the meal. Farmers are still working to rebuild turkey flocks that were devastated by avian influenza, but overall demand has fallen. The combination will help ensure that turkey will remain an affordable option for families celebrating Thanksgiving." The shopping list for Farm Bureau's informal survey includes turkey, stuffing, sweet potatoes, rolls, peas, cranberries, a veggie tray, and pumpkin pie alongside some whipped cream, all in quantities that they deem to be sufficient for 10 servings or 10 individuals. Not that many of us will be eating simply just one serving of Thanksgiving meals throughout the day tomorrow. Half of the ingredients in the survey declined in price, including highlighting dinner rolls and stuffing. That is due to low wheat prices helping bring down the costs of items featuring flour. Items like fresh vegetables and sweet potatoes, however, they did increase slightly. However, one area, a veggie tray, was up more than 61%, and sweet potato prices were up 37%. That is due to natural disasters contributing to that increase. For example, North Carolina, here, our home state, which is the largest grower of the nation's sweet potato, suffered hurricane damage over, of course, Hurricane Helene last year and some other natural disasters over the last couple of years. Additionally, fresh produce prices tend to be highly volatile, and even modest supply chain disruptions from weather, labor shortages, transportation delays, or regional production setbacks can trigger sharp short-term spikes in prices. The continued shortage of farm workers and rapidly increasing farm wages also played a role in rising costs, according to the American Farm Bureau. And they say it's important to note that fresh vegetables and potatoes are traditionally low-cost items, so an increase of just a few cents can dramatically affect the cost change percentage year over year. The Farm Bureau president in Zippy Duval said in a press release, "We are blessed to live in a country that is capable of producing such an abundant food supply, and for that we should be thankful. Despite modest declines in the cost of the Thanksgiving meal, I know food prices are a real concern for many families, including those in rural America. We lost 15,000 farms last year because of factors including historically low crop prices, high supply costs, and trade uncertainty, which continues to squeeze farmers and ranchers. Every farm lost is another step towards consolidation and reliance on other countries for our food. We urge Congress to address the challenging economic conditions facing farmers to ensure that farm families can continue growing the food that we all rely on, not just on Thanksgiving, but every day of the year. In recognition of the changes in Thanksgiving dinner traditions, the Farm Bureau survey also included items like boneless ham, Russell potatoes, frozen green beans in an expanded menu. Adding those foods to the classic Thanksgiving menu increases the overall cost by $21.91 to $77.09 for an average. That is, again, for 10 individuals. Now, cost by region, fortunate here in the what is deemed the southern region, which cuts off at Virginia, works its way down to Florida, and west all the way out to Texas. The average cost of a Thanksgiving dinner in our region is just $50.01. It's more than $60 in the Northeast, $54 in the Midwest, and close to $62 in the West region. This year's national average cost was calculated using surveys completed with pricing data from all 50 states and Puerto Rico. Farm Bureau volunteer shoppers checked prices in person and online using grocery store apps and websites. They looked for the best possible prices without taking advantage of special promotional coupons or combined purchase deals. The American Farm Bureau Federation Thanksgiving Dinner Survey was first conducted all the way back in 1986, as the informal survey provides a record of comprehensive holiday meal costs over the years. Farm Bureau's classic survey menu has remained unchanged since 1986 to allow for a consistent price comparison. So a couple of individual items we looked at, that 16-pound turkey is down about 16% compared to where it was last year. 14 ounces of cube stuffing mix, that's down 9%. Frozen pie crust, essentially at the exact same percent from last year. Half pint of whipping cream, that's up about 3%. That frozen peas, that's way up. Again, these are already very low-cost items. The average for a pound is only $2.03, but it's up 17% from where it was last year. A dozen dinner rolls is down almost 15% compared to where it was last year. 30-ounce can of pumpkin pie mix, that's about the same. Gallon of whole milk, that's up substantially as well at 16%, 16.3% to be average with that. 3 pounds of sweet potato up a whopping 37%. However, that's still only $4. And that 1 pound veggie tray, which they say includes carrots and celery, is up 61.3%. However, the price for that is still only $1.36. This analysis revealed regional differences for those costs as well. You can check out all of that information this morning on the average cost of that Thanksgiving dinner, as it does decline now for the third straight year. You can find that information this morning over at fb.org. That is for the American Farm Bureau Federation, who has now been conducting this survey for 40 whole years. Those details again over at fb.org. It's now 5:43 on the Carolina Journal News Hour, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. We'll head back to the traffic center. Hopefully you're maybe getting out early on your Thanksgiving Eve commute. We'll get a look at the roadways with Boomer Von Cannon.
Yes, sir, Dick, you got it now.
Good morning again. It's 5:49. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT as we continue our coverage this morning on Thanksgiving Eve. However, we're going to blow past Thanksgiving and look at Friday as Black Friday. It used to be. It was when sales began. However, many of those sales started even last week. However, in North Carolina, North Carolinians lost nearly $29 million to personal data scams, a record high, and data scams affected 6.7 million residents across the state. So be mindful as you conduct some online shopping over the next couple of days. Matthew Stern, who is the CEO and lead investigator of CNC Intelligence, said, quote, "The growing trade is stolen data. Combined with advances in AI and deepfakes means that scammers can now craft highly personalized and convincing stories." According to data from the Federal Bureau of Investigation's International Crime Complaint, the 2024 state report showed that more than 1,800 people reported that they had become victims of personal data scams, and a total of almost $29 million was lost to personal data scams, according to the exact same report. This is nearly 4 times higher than it was just a couple of years ago in 2023, which reported a loss of almost $7.5 million across more than 1,500 victims. Stern told the Carolina Journal, "The more data scammers have about us, the easier it is for them to target us, or the better that they can target us. It's very hard for them if they're just calling and don't even know what your name is, or if they have your email but don't know the name associated with it." Additionally, data breaches impacted more than 2,200 businesses, hospitals, government agencies, and other organizations across the Tar Heel state, affecting a record-breaking 6.7 million North Carolinians. That's according to a report from the North Carolina Department of Justice. In 2024, 68 data breach complaints were filed in the state, according to FBI data, which is actually down from 93 complaints, which were filed back a couple of years ago in 2023. Stern explained that some of the red flags that customers should be aware of and how they can better protect themselves from data scammers, especially as you peruse the internet and social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, other websites, and are looking at buying products over gifts or products over the next couple of weeks. Stern says, quote, "The best thing to do is verify everything. Unfortunately, scammers use their messages, emails, and calls, and everything can look very, very real. So you must verify everything. The most important thing I think is that you can do to protect yourself is to not give anybody information who reaches out to you. If your bank calls, you don't need to give them any information about your account. They have all of that information," explained Stern. "Individuals can call the bank or drive over there and give it to them. Scammers always try and create a sense of urgency. They might tell you that there's something wrong with your account, which would cause most people to feel relatively anxious. The best thing you can do is take a deep breath, relax, hang up on them, or tell them you are going to call the bank from the number that you know. Even if the number appears to be a legitimate number, it could be what is known as a spoofing number." Stern said it is essential to ensure that communication is verified, and any numbers you are calling should be numbers that you know, such as the number on the back of your credit card or the bank's local number. Don't call the number somebody gave you or one provided in an email, even if it appears to be legitimate. Be extremely cautious. Stern also emphasized the importance of multi-factor authentication on all accounts, so that if somebody does and is able to get access to your password, they are not able to log in. Trends nationally were not much better for 2024. Customers lost almost $1.5 billion in personal data scams. That's nearly double the $744 million reported in 2023. In that same year, more than 55,000 people reported falling victim to personal data scams nationwide. That number increased to almost 65,000 in 2024, and in 2023, more than 3,700 data breach complaints were filed. In 2024, that number did decrease, similar to what we saw in North Carolina, to just 3,200. We've got some additional coverage on that story this morning over on our website, carolinajournal.com. The headline, Black Friday warning, millions scammed from North Carolina shoppers in 2024. As we continue looking ahead to the Thanksgiving holiday, AAA is projecting that more than 81.8 million people will travel at least 50 miles or more from home over the Thanksgiving holiday period, which started yesterday on Tuesday and runs through Monday, December the 1st. This year's domestic travel forecast includes an additional 1.6 million travelers compared to last Thanksgiving, setting a new overall record according to AAA, with them noting that Thanksgiving is the single busiest holiday for travel compared to others like Memorial Day or July the 4th. Stacy Barber, who is the vice president of AAA Travel, said in a recent press release, Thanksgiving travel numbers are always impressive because this holiday has become synonymous with heading out of town and spending time with loved ones. People are willing to brave the crowds and make last-minute adjustments to their plans to make lifelong memories, whether it's visiting extended family or meeting up with friends. And we look at the travel trend over the last couple of years, well, the increase does continue in 2021 in the, still the ongoings of COVID-19, but after a lot of things had recovered, 73.6 million people traveled. That number is now more than 81 million this year, as AAA expects that the most amount of travel, 90% of it, will come via car over the next couple of days. According to their forecast, 73.28 million individuals will hop on the roads over the next couple of days. 6.07 million will travel via air. 2.48 million will travel via other means of communications, whether that's long-range buses, cruises, or maybe a train, Amtrak, or other sorts of transportation modes. Some of the hottest areas for domestic travel include Orlando, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Miami, Florida. Tampa's on the list as well. Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Honolulu, Hawaii, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Atlanta, Georgia are some of the top domestic areas for travel over the next couple of days. AAA notes that between 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. today on Wednesday is the worst time for travel, noting that if individuals are trying to beat any of the holiday rush, to get out before 11 a.m. if possible. However, they do say that minimal traffic impacts are expected on Thanksgiving itself tomorrow, the 27th. And then as we head into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, as many folks are making their way back, they note that the early afternoon to late evening hours between about 1 and 8 p.m. tend to be about the worst times for travel. So they note that if you are wanting to beat the rush on your way back from whatever Thanksgiving plans that you are attending, do that in the morning to likely beat some of the worst congestion and travel. Well, that's going to do it for a Wednesday edition of the Carolina Journal News Hour. WBT News is next, followed by Good Morning BT. We hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. We're back live with you Monday morning, 5 to 6, right here on News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT.